It's a Consult in Your Pocket webcast, Domino Configuration Tuner, and Domino Domain Monitoring. What a team. This one is in the Series 1 administration track.
Good morning, everyone. As usual, we are off and running on time. So let me know, give you the rules of engagement here of how we interact. If you have questions during the event, please put them into the question area. I try to answer as we go along, mainly about topics that we cover. During the session slides, I don't like you to wait till the end. A lot of times we'll move on to other areas of it. This one's combining two different parts. So the focus isn't as long on the configuration tuner, only because we don't have to go as deep for what it does, but we'll talk about the setup and the rules and running them. We'll do some live demo work for that, as well as DDM, a bunch of setup stuff for that, and then live demo work across that one. I have a couple intro slides, and then our lovely couple minutes with the sponsor who covers the bandwidth and getting you guys access to the systems and everything else for all this, for all the attendees, and then we'll get into the content. So easy enough. Everyone knows all the Consult in Your Pocket stuff. Everything we do is recorded. So the replays for this, as well as every other one, is online. The one from last week with Mary Beth Raven and Velda on the UX Labs will be online at the same time as this one. I'm going to just do edit both at once. Then next week, we have What's New in Same Time, 852. So that's on the 18th. If you're not registered for that one, I would get in now before it fills up. That is on the 18th as well. And we've added some new shows to the actual Spike Studio stuff. We've added a new show in HD as well as SD for BlackBerry Today. For those of you that have BlackBerry devices and run them, BlackBerry Today is taken off. Coming up August 1st and 2nd this year, the third year for IMLUG. Registration is open. Speakers for abstracts is open, as well as some extra sponsoring is also available. But we filled up the last year. This year we hope to do it again sooner than even last year. So please get in imlug.org if you want to. It's 2 days, August 1st and 2nd. It's free. We have over 25, I think it's 27 technical sessions, the keynotes, the welcome party, some cool new surprises this year that will be coming on the site shortly. And then the Tack It On event is the single one-day events. We did it last year, brought it back this year with 3 great sessions so far. They're a paid event, single day. There's a beginner X Pages with TLCC. There is X Pages 201 with Matt White to carry on for those that have gotten involved in it but need the advanced tips. He's doing a full day. And then Paul Mooney with Team Studio is bringing the Lotus Traveler all-day event for configuration and tuning for the administrator side. So we've got a ton of opportunities. All those for registered attendees are $495 for a full day. So you can basically get 3 days of tech training for $400-something total. So make sure you get involved with that. Lastly, everybody knows, so where I sit, so you guys understand, because there's so much talk about Lotus Live, still with Connectory, of course. We largest hosting provider Lotus has outside of they think themselves there. We are now not only SAS 70 Type 2 certified, but actually EU Safe Harbor. So for my international listeners and watchers, we are EU Safe Harbor certified. That covers us over there as well. 3-time Lotus Awards, but we host everything in the Lotus realm. So what I'm going to do real quick is let Steve from GSX take over and give you guys a couple minutes, because it fits in perfectly with what we talk about today about DCT and DDM. They extend the monitoring capabilities, so it was a natural fit to talk to them to see if they wanted to be involved. Not only that, I'll show you where the pitfalls are about where DDM stops, so the limits of what DDM can do for you, as well as what you're missing and what it can do for free. Putting everything together, all 3 of these, pretty much takes care of all your monitoring stuff. So Steve, I'm going to give you control real quick here, if you're there and ready.
Sure, I am here. By the way, folks, we participated in IMLUG last year, and everybody felt it was a really great conference for the second go-around. And let me just try to keep my brain going here and share out my screen simultaneously. Okay, so I want to keep this quick because you're here for the content from Chris, not necessarily to see all our stuff, but we're sponsoring, so we're just going to go real quickly through who we are. We've been around for a long time. We've been here for 15 years. We've got an international footprint. We've got a lot of large clients. I'm guessing most of you probably know who GSX is, and so we won't spend too much time on that. We have 3 main products in the Domino space. The first one is ServerGuard, which does unattended Domino server and task crash recovery and unattended Domino maintenance scripts, including Windows reboots. on a cyclical scheduled basis unattended. We have another product called GSX 360, which puts a front end on the Domino admin client and the BES administration console, so that a less educated, potentially less expensive set of employees at your help desk perhaps can do repetitive tasks like create users, rename users, add groups, add people to groups, push out service books to BES devices, lock and wipe a device, things of that nature. And again, it's intended to put a front end of that process within the structure that the educated admin team creates so that you maintain security. And then you can also have an acceptance or an approval step within that, or have it be automatically approved for different types of transactions. What we're going to talk about for another minute or two is our flagship product, GSX Monitor, because that's topically most logical for today's session. GSX Monitor, there's several components of it. There's the monitoring tool, which is the dashboard and the actual probing piece of it. There's the analyzer, which is the reporting part of it, and it's all included in one tool. It's an additional dashboard and also allows you to create and deliver reports in an automatic way. Web enablers, deploying the information in GSX Monitor rather to other people. Monitor on the fly is utilizing on your smartphone device, obviously including BlackBerries, to see what's happening in your environment. And then Monoping is a monitor for the monitor. I guess we'll spend a minute or two on this screen, in about 30 seconds or so, because there's some interesting things that differentiate GSX Monitor from DDM and some of the other solutions you have. I'm trying to get rid of this piece of it so you can see everything. The first one is there's no code on servers. So GSX Monitor sits externally, acts very much like a user, and there's no code of any kind on your servers. You don't have to deploy it on your servers, and it does not rely on Domino's function to get the information around to the main management console. It also has the concept of maintenance windows and has a real-time dashboard. So there's some differentiation between what can be done with DDM and GSX Monitor. Another kind of key point is it models user activity. So in other words, we do transactions like send mail, do replication at the document level to make sure that's working, pull up web pages and actually confirm that the proper content is there, and then do chat and meeting creation for your same time servers. Incidentally, for next week's session, same time 8.5, we also monitor same time 8.5 and all the different server roles and components of that. Far more complicated structure than the current or the prior version of same time. A couple other quick things about this. The goals of monitoring are to shorten the failure, recognize that there's a failure, and jump into fix mode cycle, and that's kind of the most basic monitoring. We also give you some tools to be more proactive, and then of course the reporting side that we talked about before. I mean, please reach out to us if you want to see more. I'm just trying to go fast so we can get on to the main content. Most of you probably over the years have seen this. This is the real-time dashboard of GSX Monitor, and each one of these sets of little warning lights indicate the function of a particular server. These happen to be Domino servers. Here we have some BlackBerry servers, including an HA cluster here. And so the dark green is the primary is up, and the light green is the standby is actually up as well. Here we have some Exchange servers, some Exchange 2010 servers rather, including CAS and DAG servers. Quicker is now supported in GSX Monitor. Of course, SharePoint as well. Same time 8, including same time 8.5 and Traveler. So some of those things might be new that you haven't seen before, but that's also supported. You can drill down and get information about an individual server. Again, we won't go into what all this stuff means right now because we want to get onto the main content. You can right-click and do some other things like open mail.box, and incidentally, that's where we get our pending mail level from, is directly from mail.box, not from the Domino stat. And then, of course, there's the analyzer piece of this. Chris, I promised you I was going to go fast, so I'm trying to go fast. This is another dashboard where you can get KPIs, a pie chart of your availability. In this case, we're looking at Domino for the day, or we could look at Domino for the week, or rather, this is Domino clusters. And then here I have all the stats of all my different clusters, and if this was not a screenshot, I could slide across and see all of them. And my 15 most recent periods, in case this is days, so this is my 15 most recent day availability bar chart. If I was looking at months, I'd see 15 months of availability bar chart here. And then alerts for that particular resource. There's some other things here where I can look at alerts and slice and dice them. I can look at statistics for other periods. I can look at other reports. Trend reports would give us what's on this next screen here. Whoops. where we can see multiple statistics charted over time. In this case, it happens to be days, but it could be 2 years or something like that. And then ultimately, there's also an environmental health tab where you can look at the performance of your servers against an SLA and certain key performance indicators. This is too much really to explain here, but obviously green is good, red is bad, yellow is in some warning condition. The red line here is my SLA contract value, and my purple line is my average, so you can see we're actually underperforming against our SLA. There's a lot more to show, but I want to turn things back over to Chris. Here's my contact information, and Chris, back to you.
Not a problem. I'll leave it up for 2 seconds. Well, there, don't minimize it yet. There we go. So everyone knows GSX. Everybody worked with them for years. They are a big, and it's not NCOM for your email address. I guarantee it's gsx.com on your slide, Steve. But
it's definitely not NCOM. That's a typo, pardon me.
It's all right. Definitely not NCOM. And he threw me off. I was getting a drink of water when he actually said he promised he'd go fast. So you were going really fast. So everybody knows, work with them for years. They're definitely part of IMLUG, definitely part of everything we do here, and it's a good adjunct over to what we've got to jump into. So if you need this, I'll put this information in the posting itself, as well as in the playback stuff when we put the slides up and everywhere, so they'll be able to get Steve's information. And if you said when you signed up that you wanted to be contacted via email or whatever and see more on GSX, I know he'll be glad to set up like full hands-on demos and everything else you need to do.
Absolutely.
So,
thanks, everybody.
Not a problem. What I'm going to do is I am going to grab back controls, everybody. And Steve, you're welcome, of course, to hang on with us if you want. If you wish, you can do so.
I certainly will.
If not, you're free to go. All right, everybody, I'm off and running. So the introduction to this one, I'm going to do DCT first. The reason I chose to do the configuration tuner first was a change that I made, as everyone knows how I do this, literally this morning. I felt that I should give you the steps in the way that we utilize the tools here, and the best practices, the way we work with them, and then how we use it later to follow up. So Domino Domain Monitoring was introduced versions ago. They started building it back in 2008. What you're finding is no one really uses DDM to its fullest extent, which should be done. We're going to talk about collection hierarchies and building in probes. We're going to get into all that as fast as we can. We'll put a lot of slide information online. Configuration Tuner comes standard, free, with the administrator client installs as well as the server installs. You're going to get it everywhere that you need. You're able to deploy this all the way around the environment, or you can centralize it just like you can with Domino Domain Monitoring. We're going to do both of those live. So everyone be aware of that. We're going to cover both of those sets live as we go along. Don't forget to ask questions in the question area as we go. I'll get a little pop-up letting me know there's ones out there if you have those. Last part, think about how you can benefit from a lot of these enhancements. The good part about this is neither of them make changes to your environment. It's monitoring, just like the GSX stuff Steve had. It's monitoring. So what you're getting is the ability for the system to actually start analyzing and telling you things that are wrong without making changes. Now, there's opportunities to offer changes, which we'll look at in DDM, but it's not going to make changes for you. So the good part is it's very passive. It's not an active or an aggressive thing in your system. There's no need to worry about it changing configurations for you. None of that takes place. So this is where most of you sit. This is a downfall. Here what we do at Connectory is we have a team of administrators running hundreds of servers globally, tens of thousands of users globally. I don't want them to be in the firefighter position. I don't want them to be in that role. We want to be proactive. So using all these tools together, you can become proactive and not have to worry about fighting the fires. You'll be able to see things before they happen, be it performance, application access, or anything else. That's the whole point of this, is bringing all those together. So a simple exercise I always want everyone to do at all of them, and you should be doing this at your desk when we're done, is be able to say, not my problem. Meaning you know that this was already there, you knew about the configuration setting, you knew about what was going to be upcoming, so you're able to say, well, that's not my problem. It's something that we've already addressed. It may be part of the network. It may be part of the Windows operating system. You may or may not run that. A lot of enterprises, you have no control over the OS. You only do Domino. And then you can look at the expansion into things like GSX did that I know that you're not going to see inside of DDM and DCT yet, is hooking into same-time monitoring, looking at the new same-time 8.5 stuff which runs on WebSphere, looking at the BlackBerry servers, stuff like that's way outside of DDM, so everybody knows. So we're going to talk about the core Domino and everything it can do together. So let's talk about what the difference between the two is, and then we're going to jump into DCT. DDM is runtime, which means that it's going to sit there and actually focus on what's going on in your environment. It can check some of your configuration settings, but it's a runtime actual integration with the system, so it sees what's going on all the time as things are processed, be it mail flow, network traffic, the number of users, application performance, things like that. The difference is then with DCT is DCT falls into evaluation and analysis. So it actually up front says, you know what, I'm going to look at it, what your configurations are and tell you what we think they should be. That's it. It evaluates and does analysis. It doesn't see constant changes in the environment. That's DDM. So you have to use the two together. A lot of places either don't use either one or has a little bit of one and then don't realize the benefit of running the other. We're going to bring them both together. So the DCT, or the Domino Configuration Tuner. We're going to change back and forth between some slides and a live demo. We've got both for both DCT and DDM. So keep that in mind as we go through. I had to do a couple slides on DCT because it's a one-time setup thing, and I wanted you to see it. And doing it live, I didn't want to take too long just trying to do the setup screens live. The best part of the goal of the Configuration Tuner is to compare best practices of server configurations against a in-the-cloud type storage from Lotus. So what it does is look at the server documents, notes any, all the database properties, everything it can find, and Lotus has built this magical list out there in their magic cloud that says, here's a list of rules. These rules are things that you should follow for best practices to make your servers run at peak performance. You then have the server run against yours, I should say the application run against your server. It reads those rules that you've downloaded and updated and says, you know, you haven't had this setting correct, or you've left this notes any variable in there, or this server document has this setting wrong to give you peak performance. That's DCT. Like I said, it's evaluation and analysis. It's not going to be passive. It runs that one time and it's done. You have to run the report again to get an update after you've done the changes. You know, you say it must cost a ton from Lotus. No. They went ahead and said it's going to be free, and the guys that made it have actually enjoyed it. I put a link to their blog. The bad part is their blog hasn't updated since, I think it's November, December of 2010. But every couple months they add in new rule sets, new updates, and things like that, and they've enjoyed making this, it seemed, along the way. And they've really added a lot of the variables that you'd use inside your notes any config to tell you what the settings should be. So it was first started about 2007, and they threw it out. The original spec didn't do what they wanted to do. You never have to get a requirement from them for an upgrade, which is the cool part about DCT. They're never going to tell you, well, if you upgrade to 854, this will be fixed. They look at what you have now. So there's, like, again, evaluation and analysis. It's totally passive. It doesn't look to the future or runtime. It does not require the Domino Administrator client, but you should run it under a Notes A client. The Java 5 parts is what they're going to be looking for. But you don't have to have the Domino Administrator client to make this happen. All of you on here probably have access to a Domino Administrator client. I run it, as you see in a minute, under the Notes client. Even though it comes there or it's installed with it, I actually run it under that part. So you have it there as well. So let's talk about the setup, and then we can go into the live part. You create the database from the template that's stored with it. It comes empty with no rules, and then it can run on any server in your domain. You can choose what server, but it won't run cross-domain, so you'll be able to choose what servers you want. It'll work against any server of Domino. The rules for the older servers aren't as exact, meaning 5, 6 if you have servers that old. You're not going to get very detailed. It's mainly 7 and 8 and on, of course, is where you're going to get the best rule set analysis. They will run against the 6 server if you do still have a few left, surprisingly, even though 7's now out of service. So it's possible to do. You will have to have read access to the Domino directory and, of course, Windows to make this run. And I gave a little sample of what would happen when you run it in the little scroll bar at the bottom. But let's talk about the setup itself. The rules themselves are generated by Lotus support. Some of them are from customer issues. So when you download these, you're getting actual things from Lotus as well as ones that they've seen in the field from the customers. They will attempt to link you back out to online documentation. They've done a pretty good job here. They refer you to wiki articles, tech notes, other pieces of information when they run the analysis. So they've really done a good job of bringing together the two parts to let you know why they told you that rules should be in there. And all the rules are being classified as best practices. So they test everything before you get it. They're not just making up wild rules and putting them into the database itself. They're actually giving you a best practices as you go. So you have the template itself. The first time you fire this up or as you upgrade, DCT gets upgraded with you, but they force a restart of the client often when you do an upgrade. So just beware. It'll say, Notes has automatically updated some files for the app. Before you use it again, you've got to restart. It's a one-time deal. I just plan on it. Every time I know that we've upgraded the server or I've upgraded DCT, I'm looking at the option I may be restarting the client. No big deal. It's a one-time quick restart of your notes client. You move on from there. But inside the database itself, this is what you're going to be looking at for the updates. When you first go in, you can click for, and we'll look live, you're going to click the button that says check for updates. You want to do that every time before you run it. You want to do that every time before you do a new analysis. The reason being is they update rules, so you may get another tech note that was added or better performance enhancements that they list for you based upon your current configuration. So definitely running the update is a mandatory thing that I put in place for everybody that we do. So how do we use DCT when we do this? Is we actually put DCT on new customers and run it against their existing servers. We want to know what they have in place. Save me the time of investigating notes any files, constantly looking for things. Tell me what's already out there. Tell me what settings they have for Java heap files. Give me the information. That's what this does for you. So when you do your first update, you'll see the rules and the template can get updated. It shows you the current installed as well as what's available. All you have to do is click Accept License and Download. It'll go get the updates themselves. As it grabs the updates, it'll show you the progress bar as it goes along. So what you're going to start seeing is it'll check the IBM website, it'll download the rules, download the new template, and put it into place. It's always bringing down an updated template. So your network speed is going to decide the update speed, but it's very tiny. Megs is all it is. We're not talking gigs of data. We're talking megs of data. It's not that big of a deal. But it'll take a couple brief moments. It'll download. It'll show you the status bar. It'll then take the template and get ready to apply it with the new rules and update it for you. And once it does, you'll get the refresh. So you'll see I added this in at the top. As soon as I capture it really quick, it'll start refreshing the template and updating everything into the database that needs to run. That one's easy enough. And when it's done, success. So now you don't have to restart your client this time. So updating the rules in the template is not a client restart. Excuse me, but when you do a version upgrade of your client that adds new capabilities, then you have to restart the client. That goes back to that slide I showed you a few minutes ago. But for this part, it's ready to go. So at this point, just close the application, reopening it, and then you're ready to go. So what we'll do is we'll change screens, and we'll jump over to the actual client itself and do the demo. As you see, I have or you can't see probably. I am going to change it over to another full desktop and share the screen. So you should see the splash screen real quick. And there we go. All right. If you can't see that, let me know, but you should see the full notes client in front of you now. And yes, as you see, I have customized my same time window to promote the consultant in your pocket stuff on the side. A little bit of playing. That is actually from Carl Tyler, his plugin installers. It's called Same Time Wallpaper, so it lets you put images and do other stuff into your same time environment on your side of your notes client as well. It's very cool. It's a neat little tool, and you can put company logos or anything else, and I was just doing it for branding, but it turned out to be fun. So we're going to look at the configuration tuner itself. So inside the configuration tuner, this is what you're going to start seeing after you've updated everything and updated the templates. Now, you'll notice that it shows a current report already run, and that's for today. This is our series for today. I ran it again fresh this morning. This is the easy part. All they did was run a new scan. I'm going to show you how it works and everything that gets done. I'm going to show you the step through. So let's talk about the preferences first of all. The preferences themselves allow you to manipulate which rules run when you run the Domino Configuration Tuner. So before you run a new report, let's say there are things that you just don't want to run, like I don't want to know anything about the segments. Well, if I want to turn off the memory segments for AIX because I know I have no AIX anywhere inside of it, I can disable the rule. So if your environment doesn't have AIX, there's things in here you could go turn off. If your environment doesn't run Deos, you could turn that off. If your environment doesn't run any of the debug stuff, you get the idea. So you can select everything. You can enable certain ones. You can do whatever you want to do. There's no easy way, and this is something I don't like, to search the rules. So right now I can't do in the front end. You can probably do it in the back end. But an easy search that says, show me every rule that includes AIX or iSeries or whatever, I want to just turn those off. Will you get a big performance boost out of running it? It's probably going to run just a little bit shorter in time. Not a major benefit, but you're able to manipulate these. As you see also, you cannot create your own rules right here. So this is what is being brought down from inside of the Lotus update. You're able to click and actually see the rule itself. I just grabbed one. I have no idea, randomly, but you see they link to the tech note that it refers that they built the rule from. So this is for the Domino synchronized agents. Well, it's obsolete. So here's the tech note that tells you why. They're going to check against your settings to make sure you're not still having this in place. That's part of what DCT does for you. It's an awesome feature. So that's the first part, is the preferences. I already showed you check for updates here at the upper right. Easy enough, you know what it does. It goes out and checks for updates. If we check for updates again now, hopefully we'll get there are none since I just did it. But you never know how fast they actually did it. Oh, another new update. Well, we're not going to do that right now. So there's actually another update that came out that hadn't been applied yet. But we're not going to do that one right now, so we don't have to close everything. We'll come back to it. So we'll look at the scans and view the other results real quick. So we're going to close it up and so you can see. Well, that's a key thing. Let me expand that for you again. So if I expand everything, we'll see if it'll do it right. There you go. I didn't even realize there was 2 servers there at first. What you're able to do when you're looking at results is start filtering content based upon what you want to see. So I ran this one across multiple servers, this report right here, which we'll look at. We can also look at other reports that are out there. But I ran this across multiple servers. If I want to start filtering how I see the information, there's a filtered by section right here in the middle of your screen. And right now it's set to filter by server. Well, I can change that to filter by types of rules or severity. So if I want to go by severity, now you can see it's broken everything down by severity and puts both servers together. I kind of like that view better, to be honest with you, for working with customers. The reason being is now I can see all the critical errors across all their servers grouped together instead of server by server. So if I collapse it down real quick, let's click over here. If I collapse it down, now I can see all the critical errors for just the servers. And the rest of it I don't have to worry about just yet, and I can work through criticals first and move through faster. The idea is that you're able to now start working with the data that they give you in a more critical versus warning versus low manner. You can go by server as you saw. I'll change the filter again, or by rule itself. But that means every time you see a rule, it's going to show you every server it applies to. So that's another way to look at things if you know it's been done all the way across all of them. Like I said, I prefer to work in the severity one. Some people want to go server by server for changes. Either way, not a problem. It's going to give you the total counts and the percentages of errors that you have across the way. Now this fits in with the same categorization that they do inside of DDM for Domino Domain Monitoring, which is another huge benefit. So you get both sides to this. Okay. So we'll pick at one real quick. There you go. So we looked at the console log max size. Once again, on the bottom, it gives you the link and reference. You know what? We'll make this even bigger for everybody. Let me do this for you. That's a little bit better. There we go. So you have the best practice. It's going to give you the link to the where it came from. This is from the actual wiki, not a tech note itself. The explanation and the recommendation. You can, and this is an interesting thing that you can do. Remember, it didn't make any changes for you. You can apply the recommended change by clicking the button. So by clicking this button, you can apply the change that they've actually suggested to you for this critical error about the maximum log size for the console. This is important, everybody. You guys really have to understand that when you're evaluating your environment, understanding all the things that were left behind, and some of you have seen me live and you know when I ask this question, many of you were never given a book of every setting in your environment, nor do you even know what's still set out there now. So if you didn't build your environment from scratch and then go back and constantly review all the any and configuration settings, you've built issues in over the years. I know I've done it. I know our team have done it, because what happens is you're upgrading, you're manipulating, you're adding debug variables, you're making changes, and then they make a change to Lotus that says remove that variable. That's what all this is about, is being an evaluation of what you currently have in place. So we have that part there in play for you. Okay. Then you can also minimize what reports you want to see by specific servers, excuse me. So I can actually specify a server that I want to see the report for. I'm already filtering by server, so that really doesn't make any sense because I can just minimize and see the other server below it. So that works the same. And as you run reports, you can actually see a list of reports when you click it. So you can change to other reports. So what you'll get is the ability to go and view reports as you go over time. That's all it does. It just pops up a list of reports for you. You can delete the report you have, and you can run it again. That's how easy it is. So I'm going to show you a new scan in just a second, too. So you guys get the idea. You can also then start working through your errors based on, performance issues, performance needs, warning needs, and you're able to really manipulate the environment and make it a better, finely tuned. DDM is going to tell you when things are going wrong coming up later. This is an immediate change. So when I said passive and give you an evaluation, keep that in mind. DCT is a one-time fix. It's not going to see it again in a week if something else is modified or changes or affects it. That's where we go to DDM. These are one-time fixes. If I click one of these, and I'm going to look at what it is and look at the tech note, well, maybe I want to go in and compress the document data to get this space back. That's a one-time fix. I'm going to have to always reapply this fix later, and I bet you this error shows up again if I run the report. So running a new report is this easy, and then we got to go to DDM. You run a new scan. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Well, there's one little trick I'll show you. You select the servers that you want to run against. All right, you can give it a name, so you can type anything you want. This is for storing it, maybe the date, maybe the set of servers, maybe it's just your mail servers. You're telling it what you want it to do. But I went in about 30 or 40 times. So I'm just going to select a bunch. It doesn't matter. All right, I went in name, and it's just it's a test. And I said, okay, run. And I sat here going, well, that's weird. I thought I just told it to run. And I selected the servers, and I said test, and I said run. And it didn't do it. Well, this is what I did wrong. And this is what a lot of people do wrong because they make it really goofy. Go in and select the servers that you want to run it on. Right? We'll pick a couple of them out there. Well, instead of saying run new scan, what you're going to do is click this little button in the middle here that says run scan. So every time you click Run New, it would say, oh, clear the screen to get ready to run a new scan for you. What you really want to do is pick your servers. You can specify other servers, right? You can put in, it says also by commas or semicolons, whichever you want. Give it a name. Then right there in the middle, it says Run Scan. Then you click Run the Scan. At that point, it kicks off and updates your status bar at the very bottom of the screen, the pop-up gray bar that we all are familiar with. It'll let you know when it's done. So right now it's running the scan against different servers. So it's in the background. We're off and running. We can come back and look at this in a little bit. It should be done in the next couple minutes, honestly. But now you guys understand and get the idea of exactly what you need to run on this side, right? If you have questions on that while it runs, please put them in the chat section. Be glad to answer them for you. So now we're going to flip back, finish up one part of DCT, and then move on to DDM, and then we can look at the report when it runs again, because right now it's running against that server itself. If that works for everybody, that is what we're going to do. Just give me 1 second, and I will change it back over to the slides. And there we go. Okay, so back to the slides real quick. So what we have in the database is what you saw, and I gave you a good blow-up screenshot of it, and this is one from Lotus themselves because they highlight. But they really give you a good view of this area here of telling you how many critical errors you had, how many they consider warnings. Keep in mind, this is what Lotus tells you is a critical warning high or warning low, and perfect timing for the sirens to go by if you hear those in the background as the fire truck screams by the office. But critical warning is what Lotus defines as a critical warning. That's totally different than what you may define as a critical warning. DDM allows you to do that, if that makes sense. DDM allows you to control that. You can now then set that. So we're going to get ready to get to that. So DDM itself. Let's talk about Domino Domain Monitoring, and then we get to the live demo for that. Why would I put DDM in play? Straightforward. It's included, it's free, and it teaches you to listen. This is an important part of the whole thing, everybody, is that DDM is, like I said, it's active. It's always out there paying attention, and it teaches you to listen to it when it tells you something's wrong or that's going wrong. The key part to the whole thing is understanding when your environment's telling you it's broken. This is something I try to teach the whole team here is let Domino tell you what the issue is. If you're always fighting that fire, you're never learning from it, right? You're never going back and getting the experience from what it was is because you're waiting till it already happened. We already know what things can go wrong. It's software, right? It does two things. What you let it do, what you tell it to do. That's all it does. It doesn't make things up along the way. So if you're proactive about it and start listening to it, you'll be able to troubleshoot the problems before you go, okay? Another problem with DDM is it teaches you not to care. What I mean by that is there's certain configurations you can set based upon filtering, which we'll talk about filters, and not to care about. these low informational warnings that Lotus throws out there, you don't have to care about those. Now, the cool part is, so you guys understand, and I see there's some questions coming in. Let me see if I can answer these questions real quick. Let me pop this out. I know you don't have any idea what I'm talking about, but the window they give us for the question area is so tiny it's ridiculous. Tell you what, when I come back to the DDM, I'll answer all these because these are all DCT stuff. So when I come back to DCT, guys, I'll answer those real quick for you in just a minute, okay? The other part about this is with DDM is informational warnings are things that you don't have to worry about all the time. Remember there was one that everyone probably saw over the years about the MIME conversion inside your email? Well, that was informational. It meant nothing to anybody. So you turned it off with the log converter level. You turned off the informational warnings because you don't care. It's still being captured in the background. Domino never stops capturing, ever. There's more data than you'd ever be able to keep up with. The idea is that you can learn not to care by listening appropriately, okay? And then you become proactive when you start doing all those. So let's talk about it. Let's look live at the stuff for DDM and walk through it all. And I've got some slides to back some of it up if we need them, just in case anything in the demo went wonky. So we're going to switch back and go live, and then we'll start talking about the stuff that you guys had conversationally, okay? So back it goes. I thought it went back. Sorry, my fault. I didn't switch it. There we go. That makes more sense. Like you guys, I know we're saying, what? I have no idea what he's doing. There you go. All right. So we're back. Let's see if it shows it. There's the DTC scan is complete. Now I can view results in the new one. So now we know how long that took. It only took, what, 4 or 5 minutes to totally run against a couple servers. That gives you an idea for it. So let's talk about DDM. As you can see, these warning icons are about the same. Here's what we do know. This database is the same rep ID across all your servers. If it's not, you need to fix that, but it starts with the same rep ID. It doesn't pass any data. It has built-in selective replication formulas, so it won't pass data until you actually tell it to. It should exist on every one of your servers. If it doesn't, build it. It shares a common unique ID, just like all the system databases, like events, DDM, names NSF, admin. They all have the same hash built out of their replica IDs for you. So that's a key thing to keep in mind as you go along. This is not the place to start when you go to DDM. I know a lot of people want to start at this and think this is where I should start manipulating and start looking at things. There's nothing there. It doesn't do you any good yet because it's going to give you some basic things, but you haven't really turned anything on. Everything you need is in the configuration. So we're going to click the configuration, and we're going to start looking at the actual setup back-end stuff to make DDM even better. That's where the problems usually rise, is from those parts. So when I click Open Configuration, it's actually, well, I opened it twice, but it's going to open the monitoring configuration. Okay, this is the view that you get. You're going to start at the top. Now, there are some wizards, but it's not where we want to start. It sounds very strange, I know, when we start talking about this. Where I want everyone to start is the server collection hierarchy. So on the left-hand side, under DDM configuration, there's a server collection hierarchy. This is a best practice tip for everybody, so when you guys get into this, you understand. By default, there is no collection hierarchy, meaning each server individually collects its own. So when we enter a new environment, or we're building a new environment for a customer, or we're taking over an environment to help manage them, you know, I shouldn't say taking over, sometimes we supplement, but to help monitor their environment, we build a DDM hierarchy. It usually follows the topology you've built already for administrative work. So if you have a central administration server set, and then maybe some regional hubs, and then servers below that, or if you have a single administration server, which is servers in a spoke around it. That's how we build this topology. One, your server that's the administration server is usually the most recent coded version there is, which means it has the most recent updates for DDM, as well as for the DCT templates and everything else built in. So I want that too. It's usually a collection point for administrators. So why would I want to put it anywhere else except where my administrators go to do their work? You're making name changes there, registering new people. You're watching admin P. You're working with monitoring a lot of the domain environment. You're controlling mail flow changes from there, policy changes. Why not see how my environment performs? So it's really easy to do. You'll do into a collection hierarchy. You'll say new server collection hierarchy. It's going to give you some choices. And it'd be better if you could see this screen, wouldn't it? Hang on a second. Let me change what I'm sharing. Oh, that was good. I know you guys didn't see that, but let me see if you see that now. There you go. Now let me try it. There you go. Sorry about that. It wasn't seeing the screen that popped up, and I apologize for that. So I changed the sharing for everybody. So it's going to pop up a collection hierarchy, and it's going to say, how do you want to build this? This is important. This is going to tell the system how you want to start collecting data. Now, the cool part about this is at any time, I could go in and delete this collection hierarchy. It doesn't delete my data from the individual servers. It just deletes from the roll-up server, meaning each server individually still collects its own data. The hierarchy then rolls that data up to one central collection point. So if I remove this collection hierarchy, the data still exists on the spoke servers everywhere, but it doesn't remove it from those. It only takes it out of this collection point, okay? You could say one server from all servers in the domain. That's the default. You'd pick the server you want to do it, which is usually an administration server, and you're off and running. Easy way to do it, always functions, and I'll tell you how it works from there. You can define a hierarchy. Now, defining a hierarchy means you're going to start building just like the picture is behind it. You're going to build multiple levels of servers that still collect somewhere. There's still going to be a main server, but you're going to actually start collecting through these. For a larger scale environment, normally where it says like collecting server 2 and 3 will be regional hub servers. Then your main server will collect everything. They're not getting attachments. It's only documents, so the database doesn't grow that large. So being able to do this globally really works. So that's not an issue, and it gives me one place to go look for things. I've seen some places build multiple collection hierarchies and leave it at regional levels. I've also seen some that never collect and go to each server individually, and then there's the few that the way I like to do it is they go in and they actually build, one master configuration and go to one central source. So you can do it any way you want to, all right? We'll say one server defines it. We're going to put it on a test server. We don't need a description. It's, if you want to, we'll say, test build. Doesn't matter what it is. And we'll say, okay. What you're going to see is it's going to build the hierarchy. You can see all the different hierarchies from the drop-down menus. Now I can create additional ones. I can have servers cross-collect. I can change the collecting server to a different server by simply clicking this and moving the collecting server. So they give you the capability to manipulate this. So how does it work in the back end? Real easy. You cannot control this. Lotus has built the synchronization of data for the collection hierarchy by default. So there's something you must have in place. Every 5 minutes, it's going to send DDM data across the replicas. If two servers that you put in the hierarchy have no connection to each other, the data will never roll up. Meaning, if I had a server out there, our quicker server, that had no direct connection to this test server, well then I could never get the DDM data. Even though it exists in the hierarchy, it would never get there. So there's no roll-up because it won't pass through another server to roll up. It's a direct hierarchy. So your topology of replication, not only your topology for administration, but for replication also affects DDM roll-up if you're going to do it properly. So keep that in mind. The hierarchy that you build for replication so servers can connect to each other also affect this, because if servers don't have any way to find each other, they can't roll up the data. Now, the catch is, if they can find each other, even though there's no replication document, they will still synchronize the DDM data every 5 minutes if you build a hierarchy. So think about that for a second. Plus, I got to get a drink, is that you're able to actually then move data around the environment because the servers technically can see each other, maybe it's DNS, network related, and DDM in the backend will take care of finding that server and sending the data. So that answers that for collection hierarchies. So you build your hierarchy first. Now that that's built, what the heck are we going to start collecting? That's what we need to deal with. Oh, and deleting one is very easy. I can just click Delete Server Collection Hierarchy, and it'll say, oh, if you want to get rid of it, data roll-up will be disabled. Do you want to continue? Sure. Takes you back to scratch, guys. It's that easy. So I've gone from building a hierarchy where it started rolling data to deleting the hierarchy, and now the server's going to make up your mind. At this point, it's saying make up your mind. So what versions can I use DDM with? I can use DDM. It became available in Note 7. Some of the probes will go back and work against R6, and we'll talk about probes. But it's best for 7 and 8. It really is. So since it started in 7, it's been improved in 8 as well. So you get some enhancements when you go along the way. That's another way that you can actually, get involved in, like I said, actively monitoring. The configuration database is pretty much the core of what you want to work with, because without it, then you really have nothing to collect inside of DDM itself. So let's talk more about the configuration. Then we'll go back and actually work with the data that's collected, because that makes more sense right there, if everyone understands that part. So we've already aggregated the data somewhere centrally. We've made it a little more complex. We've talked about rolling it up through the environment. So the whole collection hierarchy part is already completed. The selective replication formulas are done automatically for you, so you really have no choice there once you get inside of it. Okay. So let's talk about the filters real quick. I think that's a good place to start, actually, is the filters. The filters are how Domino tells you by default what exactly you will start seeing. You can change this. This is the default Lotus installation that you get. As you can see, this is the time they built it, was 2005. So you're able to manipulate and change this as you want. The idea of filters is show me certain types of events and hide the rest. So if I make a new filter, which you should see on the screen, I can give it a description. I can apply it. We're going to talk about enhanced and simple events in a minute, but I can actually build filtering to show me how much information should be in the database. The goal is to give me just the amount of information I need to troubleshoot and work on things without giving me too much, but don't eliminate everything. So here's what I recommend you do as a best practice when you first start doing this. Easy enough, don't change this filter. Start with this filter, learn to listen, then tweak the data, meaning then start building additional filters on what you want to see. Because the number of event messages are enormous. We're going to look at those. But the filter's there because they want you to turn down the noise. There's all this talk now of activity streams, right? Everything they're doing now with Vulkan and connections and activity streams, and you could be overburdened by the amount of data coming in the door through the activity streams. So the idea is that you build filters inside of DDM to help control that information. Okay? You want to understand what's wrong with the server without seeing the extra crap that's built in. Because there's a bunch of severity levels inside of this, and we're going to talk about severity levels too. But you saw those when we first started in the database itself, there's actually more than this for severity levels. There's fatal, there's also a failure level, there's warning high and low and normal. Why would I care about normal messages? So that's the kind of things that you filter out. I wouldn't care about normal. So as you see, I'm not seeing normal. Why would I want to know about a normal message itself? So you're able to take these filters inside the configuration and work with them. Here's something else we do, and this is a little side tip. There's a side view down here called console attributes. So not only do I not want DDM showing the data, but I don't want my console showing the data. Some of you may say, well, that's very strange. What I've done is change the console attributes inside the server. And you can manipulate multiple servers. You can add multiples, the same parameters to each one. But what you're able to do is manipulate the look and feel of your Domino consoles through this configuration. So when the server boots up, it reads its configuration, it sees this console setting, and then the console starts acting on that. Why is this cool? Not only do you, and this won't work with your black and white console, through the pop-ups that we talk about, but this actually works on your Domino console there as well as some of the administrator stuff. But it highlights and shows me errors built in. So what I've done, I've made the background black. But do you see you see normal events on here, right? I can change those to black. I'll never see normal events. So all I'll see is warning, fatal, and failure. And I give them different color levels. So you're able to manipulate what type of events that you see. And of course, you could always change the background, but that would drive me absolutely nuts. So the object is now my console will only show these three things going across the screen when it runs. So I say save and close. It's done. And you can always reset it to default. There was a button to reset to default. But I'm enabled to manipulate the console to see errors faster too. I don't need to see normal messages. Those are logged. That's what the log's for. If I need to find something like that, I go to the log. But when I'm troubleshooting, and that's what DDM helps you do, I want to be able to see exactly what's going on in an instant. So what does DDM look at? Well, there's event messages. And there's hundreds of them. There's currently, let's just try, 7,500. For 7,499 event messages that are in here. So to make sure we don't screw anything up, we'll deselect them all. As you can see, the different types are assigned to them. Lows, You can actually get in and see failures. You can get up all the way up here at the top and see more. So you actually get the different idea of what you guys can see inside of these. The normal is no color at all. So someone asked about building a collection hierarchy and says, trying to build a collection hierarchy for the domain using one server to collect from. I choose my collecting server, hit OK in a few minutes, getting errors, say, error accessing product object method. I would look at refreshing your DDM template. Someone just said they're trying to do it while they're live, which I love my attendees because they do that. So I love it because you can't break anything with this. Error accessing product object method. I've never seen that pop up. I would look at refreshing your DDM template to make sure that you're using the most current, and are you using the one, if the person that asked that can tell me, are you using your local template to build your DDM, or are you using one from the server that you're actually working on? That would help. They say they're running 852 FP2. So 852 FP2 server. I've never seen it. The one you're looking at here is actually an 853 server that we're looking at and working on right now. Give me a bit, and we'll get to the end. I'll look up that error for you and see what we come up with, okay? The other ones were all DCT and stuff, too. We'll look at those in just a second when we come back. All right, and I see everyone that asked the DCT one, so just give me a brief moment. So here's all the errors that came through that they put into the database itself, I should say. You can build your own messages. You can also edit messages that are in there. So if you don't like one that's there, or you want to build another one, unable to open PAB. Well, unable to open that doesn't really make sense, so I want to edit it. What does that give me? Not only gives me the ability to choose cause and solution, which we haven't talked about, but also corrective actions. So we're going to look at what those can do for you in terms of corrective actions. You can actually edit some of these messages and add things into them. All right. Lotus does a good job in some of these of giving you things that are hooked together. We're going to talk about corrective actions in just a second. I want you to get confused. The last part is that we'll get into is event generators. Generators are what actually are created by you. You can see I created this one because my initials go on. It says CM right there. I've built a generator that says anytime names NSF in the domain has an ACL change, set it to warning high, and then actually send a notification. So you can set a handler for it as well. The object is I want to be notified every time there's an ACL change for names NSF in the entire domain, send me a notice. That's a generator that I created based upon an event, if that makes sense to you. The object is you can go in and create multiple event generators based upon all these different areas, statistics, routing, TCP, whatever you want to do. That helps you build DDM. Without them, all you get is the basic. And so everybody knows that about the error we had before. I had never seen it before, but Greg gives the tip in here, which is great, that they've seen the product object error when an agent runs on a server and you're doing a lookup to a server to open a database and you include the name of the server, leave the server argument blank. I'm wondering if something's wrong with their DDM database, and that's maybe they're looking up a server that isn't there correctly or listed correctly. All right, we've run through the basics. They've even given you now on DDM a wizard. So this came later on. With the wizard, I'm able to set up monitoring configurations, event handlers, mail routings, troubleshootings, database. This kind of speeds along what you want to do. So we've built our hierarchy. We've understood that there's a whole bunch of event messages. We'll talk about how they hook in. There's generators that can be built, and there's a wizard to do it for you. All this does is give you data that then starts filling in the DDM database. That's what we're doing. We're using the configuration that's on the left to fill in data for this database by teaching the server what to tell me. Okay? Part of the configuration, again, we want to look at. There's two areas for filters which will throw you off. There's DDM filters under the configuration, and it also shows again under filters. It's the same thing. So remember I showed you filters up here. If I click filters for DDM here, it's the same thing. So they put it in two different places for you. You're also able to change what your log gets. You can start creating different types of filtering in consoles and for your logs. So meaning I can take data out of my logs and out of my console logs to give me better views inside of those as well. That's an advanced feature, but that's what that filter's for, and someone had already asked that. So I want to make sure I covered that. They were like, what is a log filter then? All right. Let's go up to the fun stuff and start working with it. Let's look at actual events that have taken place and show how they relate to the monitoring and the configuration that we've done. And then we'll also look at the probes. So we'll bring all this together. So I had a couple failures that came in. We'll look at what they are. I had an SMTP failure, and then I had a policy failure. These are showing up inside the DDM. If I look at the SMTP failure, it's pretty straightforward. It's going to tell me, and these are what's so cool about DDM, that an event took place. It's been ranked as failure. Remember, I can change the ranking. I don't have to go with Lotus tells me. If I feel that an authentication failed for somebody trying to connect for SMTP, that's what, to me, that may not be a failure. That may just be a warning. Maybe someone's trying to hack. You can change the levels of the events. Totally up to you. All right? You can see where it comes from. If I actually open up this doc link, it's going to take me to the configuration for this message, and we'll do that real quick. I was just inside these showing you the event generators. Now you're seeing this is the event generator. So I can actually see where it comes from, where it was built. All right, so you guys are able to play with those as well. Another cool part about it is it's going to tell you where it was generated in the domain, because I may be having roll-up. It's a simple, not an enhanced event. And did it happen before? Wow, it has. DDM will actually collapse all of the same errors and bring them together into one event document, saving you the trouble. So keep that in mind. It'll save you the trouble of seeing 50 copies of the same thing by collapsing them down. So once I start working with these, as you can see, it's been going on for a while off and on, it collapsed them into one document. It shows me the most recent, puts the rest in the prior tabs. So what can I do with this? Well, this is a little bit different, so we can talk about this. You can assign this event to someone so they can work on it, and it's going to bring up an administrator, or you can assign it to yourself and add a comment. What does that get you? Absolutely nothing. It doesn't send an email. It doesn't put it in a work queue. It doesn't do any of that by default. You can build that into the product, but it doesn't do it for you. So what you need to do and understand is if you're going to make DDM a prime part of your administration day-to-day operations with your teams, they need to work in the database. Once they're in the database, and I'm going to leave this event open. I'm just going to jump back to the view. Once they're in the database, they can see the assignments over here on the left. Does that make sense to everybody? If you're going to use the database, you'll be able to go in and open up your assignments and see your events or who they're assigned to. So you can actually see things that have come to you. All right? The next thing you can do with these is you can close an event and permanently close an event. If I close this event, it'll say, okay, I've either taken the corrective action, I've solved it, oh, it's not a big deal, not a warning, no problem. If I close this and it happens again, DDM is smart enough to reopen the event. So it's going to be there back for you, showing you that this is happening and meaning, oh, I fixed this HTTP error. It's all better. It shouldn't happen again, but someone closed the event. Well, 2 weeks later, it happens again. It'll actually come back to this document, see it as a prior event, retag it, and reopen it for you. So you'll get it reopened. So this has a workflow in some sense built in that's automated for you by the system itself. Okay? That's a cool part about this. You can also permanently close the event, which will then just drive new events. You can add comments, and the last part I want you to see is common actions, because I have to go back to config to show you how this hooks together. Inside all of these, you're able to do some very simple things that you're not able to do, amazingly, from the administrator client. So web admin gives me the ability to do what? Go and see my notes any. Well, I can't easily do that from anywhere else in the administrator client for Domino, but right here, I can open the notes any from my server. So I'm able to actually get the code. Now, I wish it was an expandable window, like a little bit better, but it even sorts it for you alphabetically. You know, someone said, I love the notes any view, I use it all the time. Yeah, I mean, this is an amazing little feature. Now, some of you, I'll show you something in a minute, never probably even knew this was there, but you can see notes any's from inside DDM for the servers themselves. You can't do that with the Domino administrator client. You can only do it with the web admin client. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world, and this even sorts it alphabetically so you can find stuff quickly. No matter what order your notes any is in, you can actually go in and see it alphabetically here. Great feature. Some of you know I give away this code on my blog for free, but this quick admin code, I have all these little pop-ups, so I don't have to launch the administrator client to do things like remote consoles, certify ID files, make new users. All the stuff I've got, trace connection, I'm going to build the one in for the notes any and put that out there too because I love that one. You can open your server document for the server, and it has the same console that I use in that little icon above. If I open the remote console, and some of you old-timers better know this, it opens the old remote console. this still exists in your clients. This is so cool. It allows me to do live consoles. Let me pick the server we're on. There we go. I'm live connected. You can do anything that you normally do with it, and it's a live console. You can even pause it. You can copy the stuff, and you can paste it into a document. Try doing that with the other one. Not as easy. So this gives you a little pop-up that lets you quickly get in and see the console, do some work, and make a change. So that's an easy way to do it. Here's the cool part, guys. This is built into DDM, and the icon that I have on my blog under the Downloads tab, if you click that, I have remote. You see it's the first thing? Watch. Bam, same thing. So there you go. Sorry for the fire truck. Sorry. So common actions, open remote server console is what they call it under this command. So open remote server console, and you can go live just by clicking the button for live. There you go. So if you guys didn't know that was in there, it's a great feature and a great tool. So we won't spend too much time on that one. Now, inside this other document, as you can see, this one says the probable cause and probable solution. Did that one have one real quick? Sorry, I'm jumping back and forth real quick. Right, that was missing. That's what I wanted to show you. This one had no cause and solution for SMTP in there. There is no additional explanation or help for this type of event. Someone put in the comments they can't hear the fire trucks. Well, I can hear the fire trucks as they go by. They're so loud. That means that this Plantronics headset totally rocks. That's all I can tell you. All right, so this one is another event that came in, but as you can see, it didn't have prior events that matched, but it does have a cause and a solution. So this is step one, so everyone understands. We're right at step one. The ACL of the directory has changed. The person who signed it no longer has access, da-da-da. What do you need to do? Re-sign it. These are PCs and PSs, probable causes, probable solutions. They're built in. You can actually make your own probable causes and solutions inside of DDM. So you're able to actually get in and actually put solutions and code. Now keep in mind what I just told you about code, and code into these. So you can actually have a solution built in that does something for you. It's a great enhancement and a great feature that was built into the product that, once again, is underutilized. So let's say something always happens, right, and I always do it. Well, why would I not just want to automate that into DDM and make it a button for code, right? This is all part of modular documents. So DDM introduced modular documents later on. Modular documents were new in Notes 8. They weren't there in DDM for 7. You could have some automated solutions back then, but they just really weren't there. When I presented this back in the 7 days and when we went to the 8 upgrade seminar, we were like, wow, guess what? You have to go in and actually create code now that can solve problems. People are like, no, that's automation. We don't want that to happen. Well, it's there. Modular documents are reusable. Probable cause, probable solution, and the other part was CA or corrective actions. When you create an event document, you can now choose to include modular documents. So the best part is you can use them over and over and over. So if you want to do one, we'll actually go in and make those. That'd probably be the easiest way to do it, is actually go in and actually look at making one of these for you so you understand how these work together. All right. So inside your configurations themselves, we've got the generators we talked about, right? But down here at the bottom under Advanced, let me scroll this down for you a little bit. There, ooh, I had it and then it popped away. There we go. Modular documents. So under Advanced, in the configuration, we have modular documents. These are built-in corrective actions that are already in the product, so everyone understands. These are built in. Remember I said PCs, PSs, and corrective actions? These are ones that Lotus has said, oh, a probable cause to this database not being deleted is it's probably being accessed. Well, why did we get it? Well, we got an error on trying to open or delete the database. Well, it's probably being accessed. That's the probable cause. Then you could have probable solutions that work with them. So all that's pretty easy. I know you're saying, wow, that's no big deal. So you told me a cause and a solution. No big deal. As you can see, there's tons of them, and they're very, very deeply detailed. We'll open one of these. So this solution text will show up inside of every one of these error messages. So this is where everything's hooking together. Remember, I opened them up, and one didn't have a probable cause and solution. They didn't have any text that matched it. So if I wanted to say, you know what, that document really needed, yeah, they don't want you to edit that one. We'll make our own. You can actually then manipulate what text shows up inside of it. And once the text is done, then we can add in actual actions. This is the cool part, guys. With these actions, you can run code from inside the document. So that means when I get an error in DDM, I can see the cause, I can see the solution, and then it'll show up and go, oh, here's a corrective action. Do you want to run this action based upon the code? It's a hot way to do it, and I love this. So we'll make a new document real quick. I can add probable cause text or solution text, probable cause text. So if I got that error that one of the people just saw that said, let me take a look. I forgot what it was. What was the actual wording for it? The product error? Error accessing product object method. So if I see the actual, that error, well, probable cause text would be, and what we found out, it was a bad ACL that didn't have probably a server inside of it for the collection hierarchy. Probable cause, server name not in ACL. Okay? So now I'd have a new modular document for a probable cause text. Then I could go in and say, what would the solution be? Add the server name to the ACL. And then if I want to get fancy, I could build formula code that said, go to this date, select database, select the name you want to add it, and it'll do it for you automatically using corrective action code. That's how this works. So let me show you what one looks like when you open it up. There's code. So it's formula language code that actually then goes in and edits the ACL for the target database on that particular server. That's what this code does. So what I could do is use that text and use this solution code, put it together when that error shows up, and give you guys a solution right off of it. That's how easy this is to put together. This is called not only being proactive, but being corrective action. So now you've moved into the realm of actively working inside of this database to solve problems based upon errors that you filtered out that show up for you using DDM. Right? DCT already told me the beginning stuff. DDM is now telling me, oh, well, here's what's really broken in your environment. Let's do it. So let's talk about probes. If you guys have questions on that, let me know. Oh, wait, I did have one come in. I'm looking at open event and only see add comments. Oh, okay. Sorry, here's a good one. So someone said they're inside an event, and they only see add comments. You're not seeing assign and change status. Well, that means that your ACL is not all the way done. If you want to assign events and change status, as well as execute corrective actions, you have to have the role assigned for you or the administrator, whatever rights or person you're under. So hopefully that answers your question. They said that they were inside the event, but did not see from the event the extra buttons. So if we open the event again, they didn't see these extra buttons, like corrective actions, assign, things like that. That's what you need to do. Oh, and there's one more action that no one got to see before, and I wanted to show on this one. If you're inside a document that affects a particular user, right, or a group even, or user or group, under common actions, you can send an email based upon this to that user with a link to the event. That's built into DDM as well. So you can actually email a user that maybe got an error for the quota. You can, they need rights to see this database, of course, if they want to read it properly. But the object is you can actually send a link to that document. Okay? So that's built in. Hopefully you guys like that one. If not, I don't know what to tell you. So let's go back to the probes. I know this is a lot to cover, but it's giving you an idea. Probes. Probes come by default. There's a few. They're not activated. Let me minimize that. Wait, where's the shift? There we go. By default, 58 probes. That's in R8. In R7, there was only 49 or 48 probes, so they added more in R7. So in R8, 58 probes. I have one enabled because I wanted to show you what it looked like. Lotus provided these. You can make your own probes based upon all the different areas. There's 10 sub-areas. Yeah, 10 sub-areas. I try to memorize all the numbers for you. 10 sub-areas. What you get is all these probes underneath. So as you can see, I have one enabled, but I'll show you what they do. There's a few that I think you should enable right away to get started. Here's a key one. Security. There are best practices probes for database ACLs. There's database reviews, security best practices. You should be doing these. Here's a default security best practice probe. What it's going to do is go in to all servers in the domain. It's going to probe all the security settings found in server documents, config documents, and person documents, analyze them. It'll check all these settings and fields, and you can uncheck what you don't want it to look at. Like if you don't use checking passwords on nodes IDs, then it'd be useless for you to do it in the survey, right? If you don't have a change interval, then why would you do it in DDM to check for it, because you don't use it anyway. Then you set a schedule for it to run. Now, I will say this. any type of best practice probe that you have, you shouldn't be running daily. If you're making so many changes that you have a best practice probe that needs to run daily, you have another problem you need to fix first, and that's someone that likes to click a lot of buttons. So these are the type of things that should never take place right away. These are the ones I run maybe monthly, rarely even weekly, but maybe monthly, run a security best practice probe. I don't think that it's something that should be done every day only because no one should be making those type of changes. Now there's other ones you should run all the time, and we can talk about those. There's also one, so you understand, for web best practices as well. So if you want to see if your web server is set the best way, you can turn on this probe. This is from Lotus. It kind of fits with DCT for the configuration tuner, but takes it to the next step, that it goes in and actively looks at these documents to look for settings and changes to make your servers perform better. All right, that's a key part of all this. Now I know we're getting to the end of the time, but give me about 2 more minutes. Directory probes, LDAP searches, everything you need to know are in there, and you guys can go through all these. I'm showing you some highlighted ones. One more under mail. Under messaging, you can actually set up statistic checking as well as reflector checking, so you can basically monitor mail flow in your environment using DDM to set up alerts. If things don't go fast enough, too much mail, do you want a reflector set up to show you that SMTP host is responding correctly? All that is built into this. So you're able to get all that done. Okay. And lastly, you can do code looking at agents, so you're able to actually do those and look at the agents themselves. So you may ask yourself later, and I'll show you a quick tip. You may ask yourself later, well, Chris, exactly what's running on my server? Like, how do I know which ones are going, or when are they going to run, or anything else? Well, if you do the remote console that we showed, right, and you do a live console real quick, we'll do one, and we say show schedule for DDM. There, it's watching my ACL monitor. Well, guess what? That security ACL monitor is the only one that's on right now. It shows it. Next time it'll run at 4 a.m. on 5/12. So using the scheduling through the notes, through the server console, I can say, tell me when things are going to run, so I can see everything that needs to run. Now, if you want to, and we'll put these in the notes. And actually, you know what? I'm going to refer you to an awesome document that Andy did. It's in my slides. I'm actually going to refer you to that. The object is that you can actually go in even deeper and get into showing exactly one event. You can make a single probe run. You can tell diagnostics to go. You can do all sorts of cool things like that with some of these console commands. And you can debug everything inside of it, of course, in DDM as well. So what happens is after all this is said and done, I start getting built warnings and alerts inside my DDM for security access, people that shouldn't be accessing my hosts, for database errors. I start getting all this inside of there, and I can close the event. Don't want to add anything? No. So I've closed out the event. If it reopens, it reopens. You guys can go in and actually then, as you see, it's gone now because I closed it. It's gone from the view right here in the middle. You guys can start using this as a true way to build a configuration with probes, build event generations and handlers to handle it and actions, build corrective actions with modular documents, and have it start have it start solving problems for you by simple point and clicks. Because when you're inside of one of these, you want to be able to see the event, where it fits. You want to see if there's a corrective action for it or probable solution. And then a lot of times, if there's code that will actually fix it for you on the fly, right? This one's happened 562 times. Well, I don't want to see that 562 times. Corrective action. Issue a command to the server that causes the event task to clean the database view. So you have a corrective action, and I just did it. As you look in the bottom, solution complete. So I actually ran the action to do that against my server. So it should clean the database view to get rid of the duplicates because I clicked the corrective action. So now I've had the server fix itself. Try to say, well, I'm going to close the event now. The event's done, and now to be closed, I refresh the view. It's gone. So I ran the action. It gave me the cause. It gave me the solution. I fixed it. I closed the event. Problem solved. So if it comes up again, it'll reopen it. Hopefully it doesn't unless there's a replication error in the environment. So let me fly through the questions that everyone had real quick, because then I've got the resource slide as well. So you know what? I'll leave it here in case I need to show anything live, and I'll show you the resources. Do I run DCT from a local copy or a server copy? I always run it from the server because I want the servers to have access to themselves and to run it into the back end. so everyone knows. In DCT, when I clicked Apply Recommended Change, is that change logged somewhere so you know when the change was applied? Yeah, it's actually dumped into your log file, so you'll see the action take place. It doesn't just happen in your status bar. You'll actually see it take place inside the logs and the console logs, unless you're filtering that type of data out. Remember, you can screw yourself by filtering too much information out of this, and at that point, then you start losing what's in there. I'm not sure of the reference point because I went too fast probably. It says if this kind of logging exists, it's possible to add an ad hoc item to the log so I can keep any change logging together in one place. Oh, if you want to log those type of changes. So you're asking about notes any changes. Now the notes any is one of those static things that we've never been able to have copies of as the changes take place. A best practice is to make a copy with a date stamp so you have rollback points that you can go to, and then keep making notes any. The server documents, as many of you know, dump DXL files into your IBM support directory. So anytime you make a change to your server document, it actually dumps a copy of it with the change into the directory of IBM technical support on the server. So you can see changes that people make. The notes any doesn't fall under that, but what we have a best practice of doing is dating our notes any's with a copy. It's a small few K. It doesn't eat up any space, but then you have rollback points of success. Okay. Then we did the whole collection of hierarchy issues and things like that for the errors. We love those, and some people said they love that. Sweet, great, everything working. ACL issues, things like that. Okay, good. I think I've answered the questions. Let me give you the resources real quick, everybody, because this is important. And if there's more questions, we can fire them out because we're at the end of our time, I know. There we go. All right. I know it's changing screens for you. There you go. So first thing first, Andy's DM Bible. So Andy Pedicic and I did this DDM session. He did it at admin again later, I think it's a Jumpstart, but we did it on the Domino 7 and 8 upgrade tours together. So we've built sets and sets of these slides over the years, but he built a mega set, which he calls the DDM Bible. There's the short link for it for you real quick. I'll put the link in the actual posting for this for the end stuff as well when I get the replay online. But it's about 120 pages of just DDM. It's pretty much like a DDM Bible. The online wikis aren't as good as what we've blended together and then he used for his Jumpstart and put together at the end. It's an amazing document. Like I said, it's 119 slides long. The Configuration Tuner blog is out there. Unfortunately, they are not updating it constantly. Since 2010 in November is the last update that they had. And then the wiki for the DCT is okay. It's pretty basic, and it has a slideshow and a quick demo, but it's pretty basic. I know we only had an hour and 15 for this, but there was a lot to cover. DDM, we could go on, as you saw, probably another good hour and get deep into it, but I want you guys to go in and build your own filters, your own events. Turn on the built-in probes to start collecting the data and build a hierarchy itself. You know, that's the key to the whole thing is what you need to do. Do your pre-analysis, and then the follow-up. Run DCT after you make the change. You know, you can date the reports and stamp the reports as I showed you. DDM is runtime, so there's no alerting, and this is why I brought GSX in at the beginning. Two ways to help cover this, but also to give you guys the next hook is, as you saw, DDM is very manual. It doesn't have a good notification system, nor does it cover things like BlackBerry and Same Time and Exchange and getting into the WebSphere stuff and all that. It's very Domino-centric, but it's there. The alerting mechanisms, it's not sending true alerts all the time. It may send an email, but if your email server's down, that kind of defeats. It's not sending pages. It's not doing that kind of stuff. So there's additions that you can take place to get into true alerting systems. So if you do DCT before, then you build DDM to do monitoring as you go, run DCT, every couple months after you make changes. It's not necessary if you don't make any changes. Run it a few more times, build your reports and date your reports, and then you're able to get in there and let me see. Uh-oh, Bitly couldn't find the link for the Bitly URL. Uh-oh, hang on a second. Someone said my Bitly link wasn't working, so you know what we're going to do, everybody? Hold on, let me check. I'm not going to leave you hanging like that. I have Bitly J. Oh, it's a capital K. Hold, please. It's a capital K. That should be a capital K. J, capital K, capital F. YZM. Sorry, that's a capital K. And I hate Bitly for that. I tried to make a custom one, but it apparently was taken, so it dumped it out, and I forgot about it. It's J capital K, capital F. Apologize. Thank you for catching that, Greg. So J capital K, capital F, YZ, capital M. If that didn't work, let me know, but that should do it. Together, if you guys build these together, it's a great proactive way to monitor your system. We ran through the questions. We ran 4 or 5 minutes over just due to the stuff. If you guys need to find me, you know what to do. Email me, Skype, all that other stuff. I've been slacking on the email because I've been traveling so much, but I'm catching back up. I have a few things I needed to post for some people I found. Otherwise, this is what you guys do to find me. And also, if you need something from GSX, I'll put Steve's information in the show notes when we actually publish the episode in the next few days for the recording, so you can watch it again. If you want to get deeper in DDM, please look at Andy's document and also let me know. Otherwise, everybody, get you out of here on time. I know it's time for lunch in a lot of places, and you're overseas. Thank you for joining in. I see a lot of overseas people that I knew. Talk to you guys probably next week for the 852 same time session. What's new in same time 852, and then actually, oh, of course, now GSX, throws in there. GSX adding a change management module. So Steve threw a comment in on the side that says GSX is now adding a change management module to track, report, and changes on there, is what he's doing. So you guys know, this is where you can find me. Next week, 852, what's new in same time, 852 with myself, Carl Tyler, who else? Gab Davis, a couple IBMers, and GSX will be back because their new same time monitoring is absolutely awesome. Talk to you guys in a bit, and I will see you guys hopefully at one of these upcoming shows or at IMLUG in August. Don't let me forget about August. I'd be mad if you didn't show up for that. Thanks, everybody.